The UN's top human rights body is holding a special session today to discuss what it's called the grave situation in Ethiopia. This as two international human rights organizations confirm recent reports of atrocities against Tigrayans in the year-long war. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International conducted interviews with witnesses and relatives of victims in the disputed Tigray region. They described acts of violence, including the forcible expulsion of ethnic Tigrayans and killings carried out with machetes, guns, and knives. Now, Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International are the ones that did those interviews, and we're joined now by Leticia Bader in Rome. She's the Human Rights Watch Director for the Horn of Africa. Ms. Bader, thank you for taking the time to speak to DW. We really appreciate it. Can you talk to us a little bit more about this report in terms of what the people you spoke with or your organization spoke with and how they outlined the atrocities that they saw?
So basically, the report looks into what's been happening in Western Tigray, which is a part of Tigray which is still controlled by Amhara forces at the moment. And it looks at what's been happening in the last few weeks. And we basically documented how Amhara forces and militia have been rounding up ethnic Tigrayans who are still living in Western Tigray, including elderly people, children, women, and have been forcibly expelling them from this region. At the same time, during these roundups, people, both men and women, which were considered to be of fighting age, have actually been detained in detention facilities, formal and informal facilities, which we know and we have documented are already facing life-threatening conditions. We have found that people have been dying in these detention facilities in recent months. And at the same time, in one town in particular, during one of these roundups, we basically documented how the Amhara regional forces killed men who were trying to escape when they were being detained. So what we're talking about here, what's been happening just in the last few weeks, are war crimes.
War crimes, and certainly with forces that are aligned with the government. What about Tigrayan forces?
2 weeks ago, we released another report which investigated about extrajudicial executions by the Tigrayan forces in the Amhara region this time. Now, as we know, since July, the Tigrayan forces have moved out of Tigray and have been fighting against the government forces and their allies in the Amhara region and in the Afar region. And we basically looked at events in early September in two small towns in the Amhara region where Tigrayan forces came in, occupied these towns, and during their occupation, they also killed men inside these towns. We documented at least 49 extrajudicial executions.
All of these human rights concerns, as you call them, war crimes. Since the conflict began in November last year, there's also been grave concern about a potential humanitarian crisis that's going to continue to escalate. How difficult is it for organizations such as yours to really know what's happening with so little independent monitoring?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the humanitarian crisis at the moment, I mean, there are over 9 million people in need of assistance, and that is both in the Amhara and Afar region. But in many ways, the gravest situation remains in Tigray, where government restrictions and blockades have basically led to an effective siege. And that's been in place for over 6 months now. But in terms of real-time reporting, it's incredibly difficult. I mean, this report was looking into Western Tigray, which does have communication at the moment, but most of Tigray, there has not been any phone line communication for over 6 months. The internet has been shut down for a year. But even in the Amhara region, whenever there have been bouts of fighting, the communication gets shut down again. So as you can imagine, when we don't have access to the ground, it does make real-time reporting very, very difficult.
Now, the UN is holding a special session today at the request of the European Union. What would you like to see happen there? What would you like the international community to do now to help the people there?
What's happening as we speak in Ethiopia, and not only in the conflict zones, but also outside, we've been documenting mass ethnic profiling of Tigrayans, including in the capital, Addis, is one of the world's greatest humanitarian and human rights crises as we speak today. And it's really time for the actions at the level of the Human Rights Council to mirror that. So we've been calling for an international investigation into events since the beginning of the conflict, but also also into ongoing abuses as we speak, which is not only going to look into issues of command responsibility that no one has investigated so far, but could also make recommendations on the key issues of transitional justice as well.
Letitia Bader joining us from Rome. She's the Human Rights Watch Director for the Horn of Africa. Thank you very much.